Sure. So, we'll start things off, real quiet, no drama, no controversy whatsoever. Oh, hey, never mind. EG's Busio said some really highly questionable things. For those of you who don't know, the China LCQ is going on right now. The final team was just qualified this morning, so we'll have Kang Kang and EDG, Billy Gaming, and FPX beat Tai Lu in this morning's matchup 3-1 as the final Chinese team go into Worlds. So we have those three that are going to be representing the country. The game just officially launched in the past couple of days in China. Players had been competing on Southeast Asian servers and other Asian servers for the past 2 years in Valorant, and now they finally have official Chinese servers. The game's officially launched over there. They have their cool own little knife skin, which everyone complained about, and now Americans and international players can buy it as well. So they're finally getting integrated into the scene. They got their invites to lock in. They've been, EDG played okay. Like, FPX played all right. They've having some okay results in the international scale, but they're finally going to be able to, fully integrate with the rest of the community at Worlds, and especially next season as China gets their own league. Busio, though, has come out on Hotline League and made his own comments about how he felt the Chinese scene is going to go, quoting that he does not think that China will ever get to the same level as the other regions, especially North America. China will never be better than North America at Valorant.
Let me play this clip, Rod. Let me play it real quick.
Never be better than NA, for one, in Valorant.
Ooh.
Oh my God.
No.
Let's go.
China or, I think some Korean teams can do it. But the reason I say this is because I think for League, it's back to my first point, is that I don't think these players have been playing it, since the game came out. They haven't been playing enough in practice. When all these Korean players have been playing for 10 years, a shit ton of scrims, and they haven't done it.
Okay. I gave a little bit of context after too. Did him some justice. So I basically said they haven't been playing for long enough. Okay. What are your thoughts on this?
Totally fair. My initial thoughts are it is about 10 years or so to the day that Double Lift, one of the most famous North American League of Legends players, one of the best League of Legends players North America has ever had, initially said, almost on the exact same podcast with Travis Gafford, that Korea was never going to be as good at North America, and because they did not have the game, they would always be a year behind North America in League of Legends. Spoiler alert, 10 years later, North America not only has never won a world championship, they've never even been in the final. And Korea has been in the final every single year except for 2 since he made that comment, winning 7 world championships. Now, I'm not saying that it's a one-to-one comparison, because I do think that Valorant is going to have a much tougher time getting the throughput into Asia that League of Legends has. League of Legends is by far the #1 most played game on PC in Korea and in China. Valorant, on the other hand, is going to have a much tougher time in both of these countries. In Korea, you have Sudden Attack and Overwatch that are both actually very popular. And in China, Crossfire is still by far the #1 first-person shooter, let alone games like League of Legends and others that are taking up a lot of the play time over there. So definitely, it's not going to be as easy as those regions to get at the top of Valorant as they have in League of Legends. But Busio, what are you doing? What are you saying? Okay, why would you invite the region who just got the game? They finally got their servers. They have tens of millions of players. China is by far the #1 esports country region in the entire world in terms of total players and dedication. Korea might have the most world championships, but China has the most amount of people that are playing in gaming cafes and that are playing online games. And even with the restrictions over there of trying to limit the amount of like kids that are playing games, they still have by far the best esports culture in terms of fandom and competing players. Why would you want to invite all of those people and players to try to beat North America, which historically has not done so well in esports? I
Yeah.
think that, look, North America definitely has a leg up, and first person shooters are our bread and butter. Here in America, we love to shoot people in the head. Okay, it's the thing that we do best in video games. We just love shooting people. It's ingrained in our culture, in real life and in video games. So we definitely have a better standing in here in Valorant than we do in League of Legends. But I say there is a very good chance in a couple of years we will be telling people, get ready to learn America, buddy.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. So my take on it, I kind of honestly agree with everything you're saying, and that's coming from Counter-Strike, where I literally did think the opposite. I thought what Busio is saying, but in Counter-Strike, it's a totally different ball game compared to some of these games that Riot has created. So in Counter-Strike, it's a game of who can make the least mistakes. And it requires tons of mid-rounding and experience playing against the other top teams to really think about how they're going to play in the mid-round and how they're shifting around the map. In Valorant, that's not really, it's not necessary, is what I'll say. I'll say that there's a lot of teams that do it and end up winning tournaments by doing it, right? Like you'll look at Fnatic, and even EG to an extent did it. On their way there, when you watch, the ex-Opticore, now NRG, FNS at the helm, he's using a lot of mid-round. He has 5 CS pros to do that. But then you look at other teams like DRX, PRX, and you quickly learn that Valorant is a different game. Instead of what I said Counter-Strike is, the game of least mistakes, instead Valorant is who can be the most innovative and kind of catch your opponent off guard. And will your strat overpower the enemy team's strat? Because the abilities in this game can be very overpowering if they're synergized properly. And if they're synergized properly in a way you've never seen before, like what we've seen a lot of the times when we watch teams in the APAC region, they're very innovative. Honestly, I am blown away sometimes when I watch DRX play, EDG play. I mean, shit, I literally have a video on my channel that you guys can go watch. My editor just made of Kang Kang. I think he's the best opper in the world right now.
Ooh, that's a bold statement.
I actually don't think it's a bold statement. I actually think he is incredible. His mechanical skill is through the roof. And that's what I see a lot when I watch teams come from China, is their mechanical skill is incredible. And when I've watched these teams progress tournament after tournament after tournament, I saw what they did to 100 Thieves. They almost beat 100 Thieves at lock-in. Like a Chinese team almost knocked them out of lock-in. And that would have happened out of nowhere, right? They had 0 international wins. And look what happened the second they got a sniff of confidence. This region is going to be insane. I'm telling people now, and it's something that I told Nadeshot when I was building 100 Thieves is, because he kind of a lot of people in the room with me were kind of dismissing the APAC region. And I was seeing the trajectory. And I understand from playing the game at a high level how it operates. And it's not all like Counter-Strike. People want to just one-to-one it. And it's just... it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. PRX can come into a tournament running a comp you've never, ever seen before. You have 0 practice against it. And even if you somehow had practice against their crazy-ass comps, it's going to be some dog shit team with terrible mechanical skill. And the shit they're going to do to you will blow your mind. And they'll win rounds based on their mechanics alone. And that's right now. Every single tournament, their mid-rounding is getting significantly better. Their ability to synergize with their teammates is getting better. And I think Busio is going to eat these words. I'm going to be honest. I think he's going to eat these words for sure. It might not be at Champions, but by the time next year rolls around, I think we're going to see, a contender for a tournament come out of that region. And I know people might already say EDG is. I think they're a little bit too inconsistent and a little bit too reliant on mechanical skill right now. Can they beat the best team in the tournament? I actually believe they can. But can they do it like 3 times in a row? I don't know. That's where it becomes a little bit iffy for me. But you could see it throughout the tournament how much better they got from group stage until like their last game. They were adding stuff along the way every time. I mean, what do you have to say about that?
I mean, I always thought that the criticisms of the APAC region were always so absurd. I mean, we've seen PRX dominate. We saw Vision Strikers go on their enormous, with record-breaking run without losing a map in the Korean region. They were always going to be a significant threat on the international stage. Even if you go back to Counter-Strike, there was a time between 2005 and 2007 where Korea and China were some of the best teams in the world. You had Lunatic High, you had Eastro from Korea. And even in China, you had WNV with Savage and with Alex, which became one of the most historic Chinese organizations in Counter-Strike. So even if you go back to that game, there were times where the Korean teams and the Chinese teams were some of the best players in the world. And that game was...
Hold up. Let me cut you off there. So the difference being is, I agree, those teams were insane. And they could have maybe like won a Flash in the Pan tournament or beat the best team in a tournament by doing the things I said, like innovating on a crazy level, like the 5 smoke strat at the A bomb site by like Kaboom coming into and literally beating my team when I was on Cloud9, right? They came out of Brazil to do that. Like similar stuff would happen back in the day in 1.6 and 1.5 when I would watch, and these teams would play. But the difference is they could never, ever learn the mid-rounding that, like the European or American teams had, because they didn't have the practice partners on the daily, right? They just had to innovate on like custom servers and bring crazy stuff. And there also wasn't like YouTube content to learn. There wasn't educational content just available everywhere back then. Now it's a totally different ball game. Like the playing field is so even, and it's honestly just who's going to work the hardest with all the tools you got kind of thing. And I'm going to tell you this, Rod, like I was at Champions with 100 Thieves and I watched, who was it? It might have been EDG actually. Yeah, I think it was EDG. I watched them when I was eating breakfast and I was looking at my phone and they had a scrim block like that they had just got done with, right? They came down, they got food, and they had scrims right after. And then late at night, like 8 p.m., I noticed they were still scrimming and looking for scrims. And I was just like, these guys are insane. Like, I don't even know how they have the mental endurance to pull this shit off, but like, they are making use of all of that time. Like, when they're at tournaments and they can play the best teams, that's how they're getting so much better. Like, they are getting so much better because they do all of the right things at home, but they just can't get the reps in the server against other teams. But once their scene gets a little bit better, which honestly it pretty much already is, like it's really right there. It's so close. It is. I'm gonna be honest. I think it's over for like a lot of other teams. Like they're gonna mechanical diff the shit out of teams.
Yeah, like the biggest issue for the Asian teams when you go back to Counter-Strike is just the lack of player base and competing games. Most players that played first-person shooters in Korea and China were playing Crossfire and Sudden Attack. Those two games are actually still the games that are played more so. Now, that has decreased so much with the release of Overwatch, and now the release of Valorant has tightened up the player base so much in those regions. They do not have that problem anymore. Valorant has become pretty much the dominant first-person shooter in Korea. Overwatch 2 and Sudden Attack are pretty close. And Crossfire, admittedly, does have a pretty big advantage in China. But with Riot and Tencent releasing the game officially over there, they're going to have an extremely strong scene. And they have their own league. They are not tied directly into the other APAC league, which is going to be a huge advantage for the Chinese scene itself, because they're always, very kind of insular in the way that they run their esports stuff and the way they like to compete against each other. Those Chinese players have had to be playing on other servers this entire time. Now they finally get to scrim on their own servers. They finally get to practice against their own country's teams all the time. They get to kind of integrate their own strategies that you're talking about, and their own culture and the way that they develop their teams and the organizations. And that scene is going to become a monster next year. So, let alone the APAC region, which I think, as we've talked about, has been disregarded by a lot of the international scene, especially North Americans and Europeans who are trying to compare, from the old days of Counter-Strike and the Asian scene, never really getting to the greats and the championships that especially the European giants have. That does not exist here in Valorant. The APAC region has already shown they can hang with the best of North America and Europe. And now that China is going to have their own league and their own, 10 strong teams, I think there's a very good chance that we have, especially EDG, cause a lot of upsets
Yeah.
in Worlds.
Dude, yes. As long as they have Kang on their team, that will happen. That will definitely happen. I'm telling you, like, they now understand how all these other regions play. I had doubts that whether they would be able to pull it off outside the chamber meta. I'm not gonna lie. I thought, because when we played them on 100 Thieves, they were running like chamber and double duelist, and I was like, oh man, these guys just need to like send it on us almost and like use their mechanics to destroy us. And we won every pistol, if I remember correctly, and we won every scrim like 13-11, 13-10. So like if we lost the pistol, we definitely would have lost those scrims, right? Like I'm aware of how close those were at the time in that meta, but I thought, oh man, when the meta like kind of changes on them and they have to stop playing these more mechanical agents like chamber, and we go back into like an old school meta, they might suffer. And they really proved me wrong in Tokyo. Like that's what makes me so confident in this, is the fact that I've seen them play across multiple metas now. And then the last thing I'll say about the whole thing is, after they went crazy, everyone's like, oh, do you think Kang's going to get poached? Do you think he's going to go to this team or that team? I don't think they understand the money in China. Like, they just don't get it. Like, they're very oblivious to it. So I have on the screen right now, it's behind EDG's championship, the owner's family net worth $71 billion. Like, what the fuck? This
gotta love
the
it.
Boss family has a net worth of 71 billion yuan. What is that? What the fuck is that to USD?
Not as much, still a lot. A lot.
That is still $10 billion. You name an American org that has that kind of money. Like, these guys are just loaded. Like, honestly, it's a passion project, and they will never let go of someone like Kang. As long as he wants to be there, which honestly, I'm sure they're treating him so well, he's not leaving. And esports is so big in China, like you said. One of the EDG videos I saw recently on my YouTube feed was some fan trying to like climb a tree to see like the League of Legends player and like just get a picture of who it is, who's the fifth player. Like, I'm gonna climb this tree outside the headquarters and take like a secret video. Like, that's insane. That would never happen in like the US. That would never happen.
When EDG won the 2021 World Championship in League of Legends, there were 50 videos of every they have like colleges where everyone lives on campus. There's people screaming outside the dorms, 50 different campuses and 50 different colleges of videos, a collage of people screaming outside their dorms because EDG won the World Championship. That is never going to happen here in North America. As much as I love esports, I have been professing how esports is a great thing, we are so far off and away from the culture that Korea or China has developed over there, that there's no reason for them to come over here. Okay, so Busio, I would say you should probably be worried about your job. All right, you should not be worried about China.
I don't know about all that.
Up to you, okay? You should be worried about keeping your job here on EG, or you might have to learn Chinese, buddy.
Okay, I don't know about all this.
Try to get a spot soon.
I think he's pretty secure. Honestly, EG is pretty goddamn good right now.